We have the privilege of talking once again with Rabbi Leib Tropper. Rabbi Leib, one of the subjects that is intriguing to so many people, and you just see so many svarim and books and articles and emails about Emunah B'Tachon, having trust and faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We would think that that's a given as a fundamental part of Judaism. Can you tell us why there seems to be so much emphasis on it, so much talk about it, and how do we really grasp the concept of it? What does it mean? And once we believe, what is it that we're supposed to believe in all actuality?
I must tell you that that is a profound question. It's not just a question, an important question, a critical question, but it's a profound question, one which is not often dealt with, even though people deal with the concept of believing in Hashem. There's a more encompassing belief that we sometimes are missing. And that is that the Rambam wrote Yud Gimel Ikarim, 13 principles of belief. In his Sefer in the back, in the Rambam, Pirush Mishnayos and Sanhedrin, he elaborates on each one of them. But if one is deficient in one of them, if one, for example, would say to you, Reb Peretz, I believe in God, I don't believe in resurrection. So if you'd ask a Rav in Lakewood, where you live, a Moira Hayra, I doubt they will tell you you could drink the wine. If they would say to you that, I believe in Hashem, I believe in God's existence, but I'm not sure that I believe in that God punishes everybody. I mean, God is compassionate. Who wants to hear about punishment? God just loves people. He never punishes. There's no schar v'einish in this world. And again, if you ask the question to a Rav, can I go and eat his food that he cooked, his meat that he cooks, or trust his slaughtering? I'm sure there would be an answer that would be really, so you'd be surprised to hear that he would probably say that it's questionable whether you could eat that. In other words, there are halachas to emunah. There are laws to what to believe. And the 13 principles are the laws of emunah, of belief. Would you be surprised to find out, to discover that the Chafetz Chaim Zechet Tzadik Levracha established that in the Yeshivas Radin, founded by the Chafetz Chaim, the Malach Elikim, the Chafetz Chaim, he requested from the Bochum to make a Seder after Shachris to say the Yud Gimel Ikarim every single day. And he writes it in the Michteveh Chafetz Chaim, he writes it as well. Then he makes a request from Klal Yisrael, Yidden. They finish davening, the end of davening should be the Yud Gimel Ikarim, you should say every day. Now, we're going to talk about this because it sometimes appears that it's a emunah is a rational thing. And we'll quote 5 different philosophers and 16 different proofs of Hashem and God's existence and so on and so forth. And Rabbi Chanan has a problem with that.
Rabbi Chanan Wasserman.
Rabbi Chanan Wasserman in the Chayvitz Mamarim has a question. I could ask it to you, and the listeners, if they have an answer, they could email me, and I'll be happy to hear the answer to this question. Rabbi Chanan asks the following question: how is it possible that emunah should be a mitzvah, a commandment, to believe in Hashem, and that commandment begins with a bar mitzvah at the age of 13 years old? I mean, we're sitting with professors in universities trying to figure out what to believe in and what to believe in, how to believe in, the proof. And we'll call Anselm, and you have Aquinas, and you have Ahinan, everybody from all. Besides, we have the Kuzari and the Rambam or Nevuchim that use such tangled language we can't understand it forever. And then you tell a 13-year-old bar mitzvah, you have to believe. So Rabbi Chanan Wasserman says something that probably, I'm sure it's going to be, I'm not sure, I'm sorry. I retreat from that position, but it's going to be criticized by a few people, or even maybe discounted by some people, even some Frumian. He says that innately a Yid believes, because he knows, more Rabbi Masech Hashem, you look at the creation of the Bari Olam, and you can't, Mibsari Ech Zalekah. Shamik always used to use the pasuk. Shamik Zechet Tzadik Levracha. My Rebbe in Rosh Yeshiva, Moran Hagoyin and Chaim Pichashem, used to always say, "Mibsari Ech Zalekah." I look at my flesh and I see my God. And there's so many other opportunities, as the Chazon Ish writes in the beginning of Emunah B'Tachon, that it's an emunah daka b'netiyos hanefesh. It's not an intellectual pursuit. It's not an intellectual query. It's an emunah netiyah daka b'adinos hanefesh, in the sensitivity of the soul. But be that the judgment of the Chazon Ish, the kasha of Rabbi Chanan is really powerful question. And his teretz is what he's saying. He's saying emotionally, there is, everybody knows it. It has to be a God. It can't. The remote possibility is so remote. As throwing a chalk on a blackboard and the blackboard breaking instead of the chalk. That's how remote it is. Now we can never know unless you stand from now till eternity. If there is such a thing as eternity in the world, you can never prove that the blackboard will never break, because you didn't live the time that you didn't live yet. So it's you can't prove it. But we know our emunah is like a Chaskel say. Our emunah is like belief makes it tangible to us. It was so clear in Plato's words. He said, "Seeing is believing," and we try to elevate our believing that becomes like seeing.
Believing is seeing.
In the world of Torah, believing is seeing. Rabbi Kotler, they say this Maisa with Rabbi Kotler. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Tzadikim she'osid HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'achiyosam, Tzadikim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be Mechayim Eisam a second time, amongst others who Shuv, many of them, not all, many of them Shuv Einam Chayzin La'afran will not return to dust. Their body's intact. So somebody came to Rabbi Kotler in Lakewood, beginning way in the genesis of Lakewood. He told them that they were digging in Vilna, and somebody really got scared. He saw the goyim's feet. He saw this, so I would say, come on. I mean, really, come on. 25 unbelievable gestures I would probably be making, and all kind of dismissing and saying, "You sure you saw it?" With questioning the kind of dubious, but it doesn't sound real.
Right.
And the Rosh Hashiva Zecher Tzadik B'Kodesh Levracha said, "What's a chiddush?" I said, "What's a chiddush?" The Gemara says it, but what's a chiddush? The Gemara says in Gittin, Daf Ches, I think it is. I'm not sure. I remember the Gemara says, "Menolon de Bavel Mitzvayne de Eretz Yisrael." How do you know Babylon is in the north of Eretz Yisrael, to the north? So I think Rabbi Yirmiyah Bloch, Rabbi Avram Shurei Das from Rav Yitzchak Bloch, the Chayim Levracha, asked the question, what do you mean Menolon Bavel Mitzvayne Eretz Yisrael? Take a map and look. When you have to the Gemara. The Gemara brings 3 psukim. The Gemara brings 3 psukim. So the message is what I'm saying to you. Emunus Chachamim. I'm not calling this Emunah in the Eibishter, but Emunus Chachamim and Emunah in the Torah, which is the Eibishter. That's all you have to know. That's what the reality is. If somebody came tomorrow and said it's not so in Eretz Yisrael, it's not in the north of Eretz Yisrael, I'd say you're wrong. The pasuk says it is. So it is. So, like you said, like you amplified when you said, believing is seeing. I believe in the Torah. That's like I'm seeing it. That's in the bubbles and Eretz Yisrael. To find in Eretz Yisrael, in the north of Israel. That's what Reb Chaskel Levenstein, the Chazon Ish said, Reb Chaskel, he had emunah b'chush. You could touch his belief. Like when you're touching God, to say, that's how his belief, so tangible to him, that belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And not a blind belief. It's important to understand. It's not because...
Not a naive acceptance of anything, no. Not a naivete. It's common sense. And again, like Rav Shiva Zechazak will always emphasize, hey, look at my flesh. I said, come on, this is not from one microcosm coming from Pluto, the other one coming from the other side of the moon. They got together, and they made a kishka and a chult, and everything became all of a sudden. Chaskell gives the example. I think I mentioned it in another YouTube. Chaskell gives the example. The Kaddish in Panovich is riveting. You have seen that? Okay.
Yes.
So Reb Chaskel had a friend in Europe who came over to, way in the beginning, he came over and visited Reb Chaskel. And he was in the Beis Medrash of Chaskel. So he asked Reb Chaskel, Reb Chaskel was the Mashgiach in Panovich. He asked Reb Chaskel, the Chasadik Levracha, where did you get this beautiful Aron Kodesh? So he said, one flew in from there, that side, came this other side, Saudi Arabia. One came in from Poland, flew in, and then they all landed here. And they made this beautiful Aron Kodesh from all different places. So they started laughing and got the message. you can say, people can say whatever they want. The mind can go into very dark places, but the Emunah Pshut in the Eibishter is it's obvious. It's less complicated. God created the world. I just want to repeat it because some people. Saint Anselm was one of the philosophers in the early days, and he was one of his. What he's known for is his proof of God's existence. I must talk about the concept of proof of God's existence, because there is no proof. It can never be proof of God's. Everything can be slugged up. The Kuzari says he says this svara, I come another svara if I cared. It's always Bori V'Shem. It's always back and forth. You never really can have mamish solid proof to anything, because even 1 is not even 2. So if math isn't 100%, like one drop of water with another drop of water equals 1 drop of water. You put 1 drop and put another drop. So how many drops do you have? One drop. Because it depends on what kind of issue, what kind of object we're talking about, right? Not everything is 1 and 1 is 2. So even mathematics has a side door. To get out of 1 and 1 is 2. However, he used some seichel to make it sound dvarim shel tam. What did he say? He said a person in his mind could think that there's such an unbelievable, all-powerful, that has every power in the world. There's nothing above that power. A person can imagine such a thing. So if he can imagine there's such a thing, then it has to exist. Why? Because if it doesn't exist, then it's not the most powerful thing in the world. So if you can imagine the most powerful thing in the world, then it has to exist, because otherwise it wouldn't be, because a most powerful thing in the world wouldn't have the chesaron of not being able to exist. Many philosophers supported that opinion. But Eibush doesn't need proof. I mean, he exists, but the point I'm saying is that if you want to look at the seichel, it makes sense. It makes sense. Dvarim shel tam. There's L'chayv Slavovas and the other people, Aquinas and other people had the proof of design, intelligent design. That was a riot to the existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that snowflakes don't turn into a building. You can't. This doesn't happen if snowflakes doesn't make something. It just falls on the floor. It is what it is. Only someone can make things happen with a lot of snow. It doesn't become a snowball by a snowman by itself.
So there are many proofs that you're saying, Rabbi Leib, that we don't really need to understand.
The word proof is too much of a severe word. Right. There is strong evidence that supports and makes the belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu so rational, more rational than any other kind of twisted logic, that perhaps he doesn't exist.
But once we're at that point, and we would think that the majority of thinking people would understand, even if they don't want to acknowledge it for some reason that it has a vested interest. But you're saying that there are halachas, that there are things that we have to believe within that context. So what are they? What are the guidelines?
So, right. So what I'm suggesting, and I'm saying, when I'm responding to you, Peter, there's 13 principles of Rambam that a person has to believe in to be somebody who has nemonis as a Jew. 13 principles that he leads. Not only does he create, but he leads every action. I remember hearing from Rabbi Goin, Rabbi Feinstein Shlita. I remember when in 2000, when was the Twin Tower?
Right, 9/11.
9/11. What year was it? Whatever it was. That year, 2000, something like that. Right, I think it was 2000. So when that happened, I remember people running around saying all different reasons why this happened. Some say because people were calling secretaries by their first names. Some saying because people were talking to Lashon Hara. Some say that the Kosh will get angry because of this. And I went to ask Rav Feinstein because I wanted a message which I should share with some Bali Tshuva that I was teaching at the time. And he just said to me, Rabbi Leib, he said, and it was so profound for me, anyway, to hear this. He said, if they could believe that this is not an attack from some Arab hostile country and believe it's the Eibush that wanted it to happen, we moved off center. We achieved. We're already much closer to the Bari Olam. Mm-hmm. If it gives them the chizik, if they have a test of Amunah, we got to get the enemies. They did this, and we're going to go. Yeah, we got to destroy the enemies, of course. We have to know it came because the Bari Olam wanted to allow it, to want it to happen, however you want to say. That's where it came from. It didn't come just because it happened because of a plot and a plan from some hostile country. The Moran, the Rabban Shekol B'nei HaGoyla, Rav Shach Seich Tzadik Levracha, in his Avi Ezri, talks about this, is belief something which we know, or belief is something which we believe? I mean, you can't believe and know at the same time. If I tell one, your tie is beautiful, I love your tie, and you go like this, you say, yeah, it is actually. So you don't believe me, because if you believe me, you wouldn't look at your tie. If I tell you that it's so sunny outside that you could really enjoy, it's like olam haba outside, tiny olam haba out to go outside, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go outside and see if it's really that, and you go out and check to see if it's really that way to validate the statement. You obviously don't believe him, because if you believe him, then you wouldn't have to go outside to go check it.
That is kind of human nature. This is a classic example of science says wet paint, and most people go over and they'll touch the paint.
Very good. I once saw that also an article once. People always want to touch. That's the immaturity of that's immature emunah. Immature. It could be. It is that way. But I don't know. I saw my Reb Tuvi Goldstein with him once, and we're going to Chassan as the elevator for him. It said wet paint. So he just said like this, and why didn't he have the reflex? I mean,
right, it was sufficient for him to understand.
Wet paint. So I should find out. Wait till it says dry paint. And it's just that we have this kind of immature emunah that's not really had matured yet. But if we really have emunah properly, then our reflexes would change. It would rewire our whole system. If a person could say, so the eitzah is, parents. So my personal advice, which is really not, but I don't know if it's my advice, but it's a Chafetz Chaim's advice, that a person should say every day the Yud Gimel Ikarim after davening, until it becomes habituated within him that these are the things that are really a person's important to believe in. And if you only believe in Hashem's existence, wonderful. I'm not saying it's not good. It's wonderful. But what really Hashem wants you to do is believe in all 13 ikrim of the Rambam. If somebody says that schar v'oinish for them is one of their moves, because will reward those who observe His commandments and will punish those who don't observe the commandments. So if one says, I don't believe in that, it's just hard for me to punish, and this is not for me comfortable, so that means you say that Yimach Shema, Hitler, and Tzaddik Gadol have the same end. The end is all the same. The last hurrah is the same. They go to the same place. How could that be? It can't be. So, Ani Mamen Be'emunah Shlema is declaring that there is a tomorrow. And that tomorrow is a Yom Hadin, that tomorrow. And we, Bez Hashem Yisbarach, will be zoichet to so much bracha in the Yom Hadin, a God Levan that will take place after Lachmei V'Esrim Shana. Especially if we go and ve'aminu b'Hashem, ve'Moshe Avdoi, and in the shlichim that the Eibishter sends in this world, not anybody, God forbid, a God in the form of a human being, but a shliach of the Eibishter, like Moshe Rabbeinu and Tzadikei Hador and Gedolei Hador that we have. They are the shlichim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if we truly have emunah in the Eibishter, the way we should have it, the 13 ikrim, we're very lucky. Rav Shach was saying that he believes, he asked the Brisker Rav. The Rambam says in one place that it's a mitzvah to know God. Another place he says it's a mitzvah to believe in God. So he says, how could that be? How could you have to know God and believe in God at the same time? If you believe in Him, you don't have to know Him. If you know Him, then you don't believe. So he said he asked this question to the Brisker Rav, and the Brisker Rav said he didn't know, but he asked his father Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim told him, at the place where belief ends, where knowledge ends, you could like after St. Augustine's argument, that sounds very logical and rational. After rationality ends, that's where belief begins. At some point, the rationale could be slugged up. It could be just someone could come along and just say it's not true and prove why it's not that way. At that point, where the rationale ends, the emunah begins. So there's a bridge between the emunah. It's most likely 99%. It sounds so sane and rational to believe that Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world and leads the world and does all the other things in the animamas that we believe in. But I just can't say that I really. That's where the gap. That's where you have to have the idea. That you have to have emunah, because the part that you have idea, okay, but there's a little piece that you have to have emunah for. But emunah has to be for all the 13 things that Rambam says. So I just want to hope that we could all be mechazik ourselves as the Gedolei Hadoros in the last generation of Chazon Ish, the Brisker Rav, and everybody who talked about. That's the most important chizuk that we need today is in emunah, and what have emunah in those Yud Gimel Ikarim of the Rambam writes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reb Leib. I hope perhaps in the future we'll be able to take what we have with Emunah, and then continue that along, extending that to B'tachon and trust as well. Thank you very much, Rabbi Leib Tropper.
Thank you so much. Thank you.